Welcome to another Figuring Out Japan video. We sell all the coolest Japanese collectibles and figurines straight out of Japan, and you can find out more details about us in the description of this video, including our Facebook page and our eBay store, and the pages, the direct links to the pages where you can buy these figures, which is on the right we have the Freeza Master Stars piece, or MSP, and on the left we have the World Collectible Figure, or WCF Mega, Freeza's Spaceship. So they're two figures from two different lines of figures, but they were both released in December 2015, and they both look really good together, which is why I'm reviewing them together. So let's actually start with the Freeza Master Stars piece. Now, for those of you who collect the MSPs, and I know there's a lot of you, this figure was actually a really big deal because it's the first time that Banpresto have released a villain in the MSP series. Sorry, we keep losing focus there. There we go. So they've released a lot of MSPs in Dragon Ball, One Piece, Naruto, Kuroko, Haikyuu, lots of different series, Lupin. This is the first time they've done an MSP of a villain character. So let's hope that we will see more villain characters in the MSP line. And they certainly made this one count. It is a very, very cool figure. It's also, I would say, the most dramatic MSP that I've seen in terms of the pose, because usually they're very sort of chunky, big figures, the MSPs, so you don't often have a lot of sort of action or differences or sort of an action pose. But this one is quite a dramatic pose. So I really like the sculpt, and I often criticize Banpresto for the paint job, but they did a really good job with this paint job. I really like the toning and the texture. It's almost like a plastery feel to it. It's quite different. It doesn't sort of have that plasticky feel compared to some of the others. Even on parts like the hand or the wrist part here, you can see it's a different shade of white. It actually feels a little bit different as well, and you've just got that really nice texture. You can see the same at the bottom down here, and you can see again all that nice toning, the color variation. The hand looks authentic. So the sculptor just really did a good job, and the best part, just that evil grin and that sort of cocky smile that he had before Goku beat him up, and they just really captured that very, very well. So really impressive figure, and definitely one of the best figures that Banpresto have released of Frieza. And you can see even the back of the hand, it's got the knuckles and the sort of bone that you see, and you can see my ugly hands there. So just so much detail. And there is actually a scene where Frieza's standing on a rock near some water, and he actually has this stance with the fingers out. I mean, that's not an easy thing to mold and to sculpt. And if you go to the item page for this figure, you can actually see we have that picture from the show where he's in this stance. Now, a couple of things to point out. You'll see this stand in the background, and that just sits on. It doesn't clip. And you actually do need to use that, because if you don't, he will tip over. And the reason for that is the tail, as you can see, it's kind of symmetrical. You kind of got that back to front S, but because it's thicker near his body, there's more weight on his left, from our perspective, his right, so he will tip that way without the stand. So you do actually need that stand. And kudos to Banpresto for finally giving us a stand that actually kind of matches in with the figure, because they've given us stands for a few different MSPs, but it's been it's often like a really strange color. So for example, the Gohan here, why would you put a light blue thing? Like, it's really ugly, and you can really notice it. Now, you actually don't need it, but it's a little bit unstable without it. So, and this is actually a repaint. So this is definitely one of my more valuable figures. So I don't want to damage. So I do actually use the stands for that one. But finally they've actually given us one that sort of matches with the color. Now, I just love this figure. One critique I do have though is for an MSP, it's a bit small. Now, I actually really like that sort of size figure. He's about 180 millimeters tall, but he is an MSP release, and you can see even with Gohan just how much taller Gohan is, and even Gohan is one of the shorter MSP figures. So, sorry, it's not a Dragon Ball figure. I just grabbed what I had around, but you can see these shanks. That is the standard kind of MSP size, which is about 25. He's actually 25.5 centimeters. So he's about 7.5 centimeters bigger than the Freeza, so about 50% bigger. So you can see that difference in there. So he is an MSP, and the scale may not work as well with some of the other ones. But Frieza is actually meant to be short in the series. You'll notice that he is quite a bit shorter than Goku. The other thing I really like about this figure, and it's very hard to show in the lighting, but these parts here, any of the purple parts, they're not just painted on or printed on. It's actually like a semi-transparent, it's like a bubble. It actually looks like a marble. It is sort of like a plastic. It's not glass, but it actually does look like glass. And I really appreciate, because that would be quite expensive, I really appreciate Banpresto actually using that. And to me, that just really makes the figure, it just makes it look so much better by doing that. It actually looks really dark in the camera, but it's actually a really rich purple, believe it or not. I know it looks very different from what you see on screen, but yeah, that actually kind of looks like what it does. Yeah, there we go. So you can see it's quite purple. Usually it looks really dark, as you can see there. It just depends on the lighting. But if you have that on a really shiny light, it looks amazing. You get that nice sort of gleam and reflection. So that's the Master Stars piece, Freeza. And I'll now show you the WCF figure. And this is about 7.5 centimeters tall, and it's about 150 millimeters wide. So it's actually bigger than I thought it was going to be. It's quite a large figure. You can see the size difference, or the size comparison there. And this is actually part of the, as I said, the WCF series. So usually these ones come in very small boxes, and they're very small figures. But you can see this one is actually one of the mega releases, so it's nice and big. And it's a really great figure. I mean, it's got all the details that you would hope for and expect. Again, I really like the paint job. All these parts are metallic and shiny. Looks really good. You even have the sort of, you can't open the figure up. Banpresto figures don't have articulation. But, they've actually sort of got that line, because that's how people get in and out of the ship. And I really like these arms, or the legs rather, of the ship. And it just looks really detailed. It goes all the way around the ship. So that's very, very cool. And what you can actually do is, they have actually released the smaller WCF, so all these figures will come in that sort of size box, and they're to scale to the actual ship. So it's actually very similar to, back in 2009 they released a ship that was actually, I think, a bit larger than this one. We still sell it, and that was with the Frieza's Force series. So they were also smaller figures that you could sort of match up with them. But even if you just wanted to get the ship, I think it looks great in the sense that you're not going to want this to be the centerpiece, I think, of a display. I mean, you'd want the centerpiece to be something like the Freeza, but it's great for a side piece or sort of a background piece if you wanted to make that Namek Saga display. So you can see there it says Dragon Ball Super Mega World Collectible Figure Freeza's Spaceship. So pretty cool box. And I'll just show you the MSP box, because this is actually one of my favorite boxes. I just love that planet and the stars at the back, in the background. So as I said, two figures, that two different figure lines, and we do sell them separately, but they look fantastic together as a display. And there is the bottom again. So that is the Frieza Master Stars piece figure with the WCF World Collectible Figure Frieza's Spaceship. Two fantastic figures if you're a Frieza fan. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.